It's a great pleasure to welcome to What's Next, Phillip Ambartzakis, Senior Account Executive, External Sales at TCM. Vishnu Naidoo joins us as well, Technical Solutions Architect at pre-sales, for pre-sales at TCM. Gents, firstly, a good afternoon to you, and thank you for joining me for this episode of What's Next.
Very good afternoon to you, Aki.
Thank you very much.
Listen, I'm really looking forward to our conversation. We're going to unpack a lot of stuff and what's happening at the moment and what's current in the cloud, what's happening with AI, etc., etc. Let me start off with you, Phil. In the world of the cloud, where we are at the moment, I mean, there's cloud and there's AI and there's a lot of stuff happening up there. There's data centers are being put under pressure, and hardware infrastructure still. I mean, is hardware infrastructure still applicable and relevant in the modern world? And I guess it definitely is, because of the amount of crunching that and power that AI needs today. Tell me about this.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question, Aki. It's something that we've gained experience with over time, where we've been through this cloud journey with our clients and seeing what's going on there, and then suddenly this bubble burst of AI. But what we've noticed is that if you look at most of our clients today, a lot of the core systems they would prefer to keep on-prem so that they can keep their hands on it and manage it properly. And that is kind of morphing into a hybrid environment where the core systems themselves are still physical tin, and then they're using the cloud for some of the edge applications or some applications/solutions that fit into the cloud nicely, that you can just deploy easily without too much challenge. But in this world of artificial intelligence and the movement and control of data, we do find that having on-premise infrastructure that is designed and built to meet the new challenges of businesses today is definitely pertinent and supports it instead of AI changing the game that customers move to that to answer a question. It's more like having the core infrastructure there and solid to support, and then you build AI on top of it.
Okay, now that's very, very interesting. So it sounds to me like everyone's kind of adapting to all of this change that's happening, and people are doing cloud and infrastructure differently. And I think AI is certainly shifting quite a few gears around us. Vishnu, let me ask you, I mean, what are some of the key innovations IBM is focusing on for its power systems and, the storage solutions that you currently have to assist the customers in this existing world that's really got some complicated business challenges? What are you guys doing to help?
Definitely a lot of challenges, Aki. Thank you for that. So there are a few that I can mention. Let's start with, we'll be focusing on power systems and storage. So let me start with IBM storage flash systems. But first and foremost, I think customers can really take comfort in the fact that IBM storage platforms are built using the NIST framework. So what this is basically the National Institute for Standards and Technology. And customers can be rest assured that their data is protected from cyber attacks, etc., by using the NIST cybersecurity framework guidelines. So that's very key from a storage perspective. If I have to dig down into the actual nuts and bolts of a storage environment, FCMs. Now, FCMs are basically flash core modules. So basically, IBM started developing these modules around 2018 and came out with FCM 1s. We are now sitting a few years later with FCM 4s. And the beauty part about this particular design is unmatched storage density. We're getting around 115 terabytes of data on a single disk. And when they started this, you could get 2.2 to 1 compression. We're sitting today with about 5 to 1 compression, guaranteed, provided that you basically do the necessary analysis and work in terms of, if you add medical x-rays, for example, or videos, you're not going to get compression of that nature, right? So therefore, this exercise that you go through with a business partner or IBM is key to ensure that you get that sort of compression. What's phenomenal about this drive today with FCM4, though, is that with IBM Insights Pro, you basically get AI-powered ransomware threat detection. And the key thing about this is that it's based in the drive, not on the controller. So there's no impact to the performance of the controller. And obviously, the user experience is phenomenal then as well. Moving on to something else around Gen AI capability of IBM storage flash systems today. So you've got a chat window. Everybody's got chatbots these days. And gone are the days when you needed to have some serious CLI skills, command line interface skills. You got a junior administrator getting into a system, administering the box, and you can open up a chat window, and even my manager can do it these days. Ask it a question like, what is my disk capacity today? Or what is my disk utilization? And it'll spit out a simple English answer in terms of your percentages. And this is all using large language models. Another thing comes to mind is FlashGrid, a scalable storage platform. This was introduced in version 8.7 of storage virtualized software. It's two things about it. It gives you auto-tiering of workloads. Now, we're all familiar with auto-tiering of workloads within an array, where previously you had spinning disks and maybe SSDs, and you automatically move workloads around. But now it goes beyond the borders of that. You've got in a data center maybe a cluster of arrays that you can basically move workloads from one array to another. For example, if you've got the auditors coming around for once a year, doing some serious reporting, and they're running some serious batch jobs, which maybe a FS 5000 is taking a lot of strain, AI is monitoring that environment constantly, looking at the I/O patterns of the workloads, and it will automatically move maybe to a FS 7000 that you may have in the environment, and thus giving you some serious efficiency. And the beauty part about it, when it's done, it automatically moves it back, and without the user even realizing that this has happened. And the good thing about auto-tiering is that it gives you the ability to do migrations with zero downtime. With all our issues around Black Friday and the silly season is coming upon us, no one's got time for change control. And if you can do this on the fly, what a pleasure.
Yeah, and a lot of the stuff that you talk about, Vish, is all baked in. So it's all happening in the background without a user or a business, needing to get involved, which is fantastic.
Exactly. Now let me go to my baby. Part of the question was the power systems. So we are sitting on generation 10 of power. And the innovation around there, first and foremost, is the Power 10 chip, the design around it. And the chip is basically built with higher core density and also some serious bandwidth that gives you the speed that you require with 5 times the performance based on its predecessors in some cases. But what this allows you is that you have the ability to now not purchase as many cores, because the same workloads can be done, the work of it can be completed with much fewer cores, as a result bringing your application licensing costs and putting more dollar to the buck in terms of the bottom line, right? So that's as far as the core is, the CPU or the power chip is concerned. Then something else comes to mind is MMA. No, it's not martial arts. It stands for Matrix Math Accelerator. Now, this is also something that's built into the chip. What it does is it aids the users when it comes to, as an example, if you are doing IoT at your edge computing, at your edge level, normally you would need to traverse that data through the WAN into your data center, where you've got some serious servers to actually do the computations and inferencing to give you the predictions that you're looking for. But all of this now can be done at the edge itself. The last thing I want to talk about is probably in terms of innovations right now is FHE. IBM, Phil and I worked at IBM, so acronyms is in our DNA. So FHE is fully homomorphic encryption. What does that mean? Basically, you have the ability, it's a form of encryption, basically, that does not need to decrypt your data before it has to do any computations on it. And this actually is what secures your end user sensitive data, basically. So my competitors, should I say, will need to decrypt and then actually utilize this data. But by you not needing to do this in the FHE with IBM Power Systems, etc., it's a game changer.
Okay. So those are real compelling reasons that you've highlighted there, Vish, and it's certainly quite impressive. The stuff that happens in the background without the customer realizing is baked into the technology. Phil, when you look at the IBM Power Systems, how do they differentiate themselves from competing architectures like x86, for example, and especially in an enterprise environment?
So it's been a fun time being in the industry for a few decades, and you see the ebb and flow of technologies. But what we see pushing in, as you so rightly mentioned, right, x86 is becoming, and this is Intel-based technology, right? So we know a lot about Intel, and we see the Intel vendors pushing hard to get into the data center with these new technologies, like how do they support cloud? How do they support AI? Vishnu was mentioning, an x86 box can do elements of AI by adding really, really expensive graphics cards to them and almost get to the point where they can match an enterprise system like a Power Box. The differentiation that I see from an IBM Power and storage perspective is there's continued leadership and innovation from an IBM perspective. If we look at everything as basic as manufacturing process through cyber resilience, and then leadership from a performance capability, you continually see IBM at least one step ahead of where the competing architectures are. And, you might have heard in the industry stuff like, the big monoliths, the old IBM iron is dead. But in our experience, we continue to see IBM innovating and also leading the journey around aspects that affect today's business, like containerization, the adoption of Red Hat OpenShift infrastructures. And IBM continues to lead the way and deliver. And from a sales guy perspective, it's not so much a matter of the bits and bytes from a sales guy perspective, but it's what we see from a total cost of ownership perspective at a customer level, where it's easier for them to tell their businesses what the benefit is of their technology from the TCO that IBM's giving. x86, not so much, because of the fact that they're not quite in that leadership space from a technology perspective.
Yeah, I guess what I'm hearing from you, Phil, as well, is that people need to look at the bigger picture, right?
Absolutely.
Just something very unique about the IBM Power Systems as well. It's probably the only platform out there that's available where you could simultaneously run 3 different operating systems at the same time, managed by the same hypervisor, which is IBM's Power VM. And this gives you much more flexibility compared to what you could do on x86 box from a OS perspective. And there's something else in terms of x86 as well. So with x86, you've got multi-threading, but it only goes up to 2 times on your core. But with IBM Power System technology, you've got SMT8, and that stands for simultaneous multi-threading. That basically gives you the ability to go up to SMT 8, okay? So you're virtualizing that core 8 times to then give your application much more oomph to run your workloads.
Okay, those are impressive statistics you guys have been speaking about. Vish, you mentioned earlier, you spoke about AI and machine learning and all that sort of stuff. How is IBM integrating AI and machine learning into its power and storage products to enhance that kind of performance? We just spoke about x86 right now. There's talk about performance. There's talk about automation. How is IBM integrating AI and machine learning?
I think the first thing is around, I spoke about NIST, okay? That's from a storage perspective. And that's got to do with various frameworks that people come up with internationally. What we have today on the power side of things specifically is integration with AI frameworks, okay? And this is very key because power systems are optimized for open source AI frameworks with the likes of TensorFlow, PyTorch, Onyx. And this gives the ability and the integration allows AI and machine learning to run natively on power, supporting both training and inferencing, like I spoke about. And further to that, it also gives the developers the ability to deploy and scale AI applications without any major extensive reconfigurations. And in terms of how they develop and the time taken and the agility given to developers is key because it affects the bottom line basically. And that's what it's all about. So AI frameworks is key, and that's what makes power systems very open because of how it was developed. So on the mainframe, just moving on to something else around that question. On the mainframe, we've already got, from an IBM perspective, Code Assist. Now, what that is, it's Code Assist for modernization of your applications. And IBM has perfected it on mainframes, and customers are using it. And what it does, it uses the Watson X AI and data platform, basically using AI to do all your grunt work to recode your RPG, your old legacy RPG programs. And because we often go to customers and they're always complaining about, I've got a gray-haired guy sitting in the corner there and he's programming RPG, but no one else knows it. And if he gets hit by a bus tomorrow, we're in trouble. And that is why IBM has listened to all of this. And now they've got AI doing the recoding of RPG into free-form RPG, which even students coming out of university understand it and basically will be able to use it to modernize your applications. And it's not officially here with IBM I. IBM I runs on Power Systems, but it's due to be here by the end of this year, and it'll help a lot of our customers in terms of recoding to freeform.
Okay, that's really, really interesting stuff. Look, storage is a big issue as well. And I want to address this question to Phil. When you look at IBM and how they are addressing storage efficiency, particularly in the terms of data compression, I mean, Vish was talking about the compression that's happening in the back end, the deduplication, and of course, energy consumption, which is really key today when you're looking at those ESG targets, et cetera, and how data centers perform. How is IBM addressing these issues?
So yeah, it's a fun thing, particularly for South Africa, because we've obviously had our energy challenges in the past, but we've now got our customers being measured on their carbon footprint, how green they are, how friendly they are to the environment. I think that I might have mentioned it earlier, but one of the aspects that I really like about IBM is IBM's always led the way in this journey. So right from the beginning, in terms of deduplication of data and compression of data, IBM, I liked your statement earlier of these baked-in technologies. So it's not something you necessarily have to think about. It's something that's continuously developed. And what I like is that every new iteration of the technology from IBM allows our customers to control their data differently. So not only what is baked into the technology, but as TCM and IBM together, we get to go on a journey with our customers and almost allow our customers to think outside the box because of the underlying support technology that's there. So we walk this journey, and the world is our oyster around this technology, where we can pick what and where we want to do that. So it's nice to see an organization like IBM, who's always been in this space, continuing to develop, continuing to hold sort of the most patents in the industry. And, we mentioned some of the technologies earlier, but the cleverness around something as simple as a disk drive, which from a business perspective is not necessarily important. If I'm talking to a CIO, he doesn't care how clever the drive is. However, from his total cost of ownership perspective, how clever the drive is, how it's manufactured, how power efficient it is, makes a massive difference to his bottom line, because it's about the total cost of ownership. You mentioned it earlier. It's that bigger picture scenario. So we're getting it from both sides, where we've got exciting technology, but we've also got real business value coming to our customers from IBM.
And I think that all of this that you guys are speaking about it all comes from the research and development. We know that, IBM spends a lot of money developing new stuff. They're constantly innovating. You've both mentioned this in the beginning, and holding all these patents and doing a lot of unique stuff in the background. Vish, could you talk to us about the advancements that are being made in terms of the area of performance tuning? Because it sounds like something that's constantly evolving. And of course, the high availability for IBM power and storage systems. Talk to us about the advancements and what research has been going into all of this in the background.
I just want to say, firstly, though, the incorporation of AI and large language models is streamlining processes, and that is why we're able to achieve optimum performance. First and foremost,
yes,
there's technologies within IBM in terms of their power offerings for high availability, for sharing resources, and this I'm referring to is Power Enterprise Pools. PEP1, as we refer to it, was introduced a few moons ago, and where you were able to use mobile cores for your workloads. If you had a cluster of servers in a data center, you could, through your HMC, your hardware management console, move resources to where you needed it. Now we've gone to version 2 of that, PEP 2.0, and very similar technology gives it the ability to run workloads in your data center, but when you purchase hardware, you don't necessarily know what you need for the future, okay? You basically purchase for what you need for today. But there will come a time when you have some workloads that you never knew that you needed to run at some stage, and it will need more performance. This can be taken away from other servers that are probably idle, perfect, but also we have the ability to the system to, on its own, utilize the dark cores within a power server, and IBM, through their CMC, Cloud Management Console, constantly manages this, monitors this, and it'll send you a bill, but a bill that's done per minute, not per day, per month, or per year.
Okay.
And this saves a lot, because if you get per minute billing, it really allows customers to manage the purse, basically. And that's something that's key in terms of ensuring that you've got performance and you've got high availability when it comes to your actual workloads itself. IBM's being very flexible around what it can offer within the product sets that it actually manufactures or produces. And one of them being, from high availability perspective, is replication. Whether you're replicating from your production to DR or to your HA, you've got built-in IBM software from IBM, which is IBM Power HA. But it's also a preference that, depending on the workloads, depending on the operating system you're using, depending on your preference, ultimately, there's other third-party vendors that provide similar replication software. And so you're not locked in, and that's the beauty part of it. From a storage perspective, with regards to high availability, you've got In the past, you had to tick a box if you wanted a certain software to do a certain task when you buy an array. Today, IBM sells you a box and everything is included. So your replication software comes standard with storage virtualized within the box on your IBM storage flash systems. And there's no need for additional software because it's not always easy to go to a customer to say, you got to pay a few more dollars to actually get this, sorry. And there's a pushback immediately. So IBM have again listened to customers and have included all of this with the boxes already.
Phil, can you provide us some examples of how IBM Power Systems and, of course, the storage solutions have transformed customer environments in terms of operational efficiency or cost reduction? I mean, just what Vish said now, that, you're paying per minute, that in itself is helping reduce costs because you contain costs, you understand where it's coming, but costs are obviously a big, big issue for customers. Can you give us some examples?
Yeah, so I'll give you an example on the storage side and an example on the power side, which were and are still fun adventures that we're having. I've been working with one of the healthcare providers in the market for some time and have been with them on a journey where they're a dedicated IBM customer. They like the technology. They believe in the technology. And we've seen several different iterations of storage solutions going into this customer. And each time there's a benefit. So every time there's a total cost of ownership strategy, but we've moved from basic monolithic storage infrastructures to virtualized storage infrastructures to flash systems where they're using the latest disks to NVMe to then virtualized flash NVMe systems. Now systems with high availability. And it's not only that, it's also the broader ecosystem that IBM plays with. So if we look at a storage infrastructure, you've got to think of the network that it's using, right? Just the SAN, a storage area network. And the integration into storage area networks for this particular customer has been vital because they can not only see the performance, but they see massive savings from, we were talking about it earlier, from an energy perspective. Their last upgrade that they went with on a storage infrastructure perspective saved them massively on their data center costs because, as you mentioned earlier, data centers are a bit of a nightmare to manage, and especially if your data center infrastructure is outsourced. Whatever you're putting in there, if that can do more work for you, make the bosses happy, and save you money, then, super, super beneficial there. And then if I look at the power side, I went through a great experience with a customer in agriculture where they were a dedicated IBM Power technology user. And that technology got a little bit old and they've been using, it's funny, Vish mentioned it earlier, they've been using an older technology to keep them going. They then took the step to look at new technology and how to bring benefit to the business. And it's interesting because, if you look at the agricultural sector in South Africa, these guys will turn over every cent twice to make sure they're giving the most benefit to their clients, right? Our farmers. So it was a very careful decision these guys took, but literally a generational jump from one generation to the next has given them a performance envelope 3-4 times what they were used to. So the business is now happy with the business as it stands. This now gives the infrastructure team the opportunity to start exploring application modernization, Red Hat. How do we use our core system and the cloud to deliver further benefit to our customers? So, and we're on that journey as we stand at the moment. And it spreads into the wider IBM ecosystem of where we can get support from IBM's software team as well on these power technologies to walk the journey with our customer and see where we go. It's been great fun.
Look, it's almost like it's like a ripple effect, guys. I mean, when I know people are hesitant to spend money, but when you show people that when you do spend money, it unlocks value in your business, and then in itself is growing your business. And you need to do this in the competitive world that we're living in today.
I just like to,
Vish, yes, go ahead, Vish.
like to add something around that in terms of a real life scenario. We've had spinning disks and SSDs and now NVMEs for a long time now. But I've had a customer basically using spinning disks, and IBM I as an operating system is very hungry for ARMs. So it needs a lot of spindles. And so, first and foremost, they had a scenario where they had about 70 ARMs performing their tasks that they needed to on their power box. And when I then redesigned it and sold them the Power 8s, for example, and given them SSDs, I brought that down to 7. And that was unheard in the space. But what it also did, and I won't forget this, it's a very hard number. They used to run a job that took 1,040 seconds. I mean, you may not think it's a long time, but with putting SSDs, it came down to 19 seconds. Now, I don't know what the math is on that in terms of percentage difference, but it's huge. And guess what? Just this year, we sold them the latest generation, which is Power 10s, and put in NVMEs. And I think it's going to give them around -2 seconds completion times, if that makes sense at all, because they're so fast.
Well, look, at the end of the day, you're reducing that time and you're able to do other things with that time. And that's a very important factor. Time is critical and speed is critical. Vish, where do you see IBM storage technology solutions going into the future? I mean, it seems to be moving really fast. We seem to be doing more with less, and there's a lot of innovation happening. Where is it all going?
I think IBM mainframe, I mentioned early on, is basically a guinea pig for power to an extent, because from a virtualization perspective, it was perfected on IBM mainframes. And I think it came around 1999 that IBM adopted that on Power Systems, giving it the ability to run logical partitions, and again supported by its hypervisor, IBM's hypervisor, Power VM. Now, that's an innovation on its own. Then we went on, I think it was a year or so ago that IBM acquired Red Hat solutions that gave significant gains in the open source environment for Power servers, because it supports Linux natively, right? Like I mentioned earlier. And together with easy integration into Red Hat OpenShift with containerization, really was a game changer for IBM. So open source adoption in Power products is increasing the developer base in terms of what they can achieve today for modernization of apps. So yeah, open source technology plays a pivotal role around hybrid and multi-cloud, basically areas that consume IBM Power resources. And this is constantly increasing. Open source cloud native tools like Docker, Kubernetes, OpenShift makes it much easier for IBM systems to integrate into cloud environments. And I think all of this is what's going to make Power even more powerful and relevant in the open source environment.
Absolutely fascinating. It's actually fascinating listening to both of you talking about where technology is evolving and, this exponential growth and, how much more data we're creating every single day and what we're doing with the data and the speed at which we process the data and how we make sense of the data. These are all critical components, and how we store the data, critical components of the world and the world that we're living in today, and how businesses grow, and the need for all of this to be operating in an efficient energy environment, really critical. Great to hear what IBM is doing to make all of these things work, because they all form part of this bigger ecosystem around us. Gents, I cannot thank you enough for sharing your insights. Phillip Ambartzakis, who's the Senior Account Executive at TCM. Vishnu Naidoo, Technical Solutions Architect at TCM. Gents, really appreciate the time, and thank you for sharing your insights on what's next.
Thank you, Aki.
Thank you, Aki.